and that has a very great fact. That has been a very great factor while they develop their investment strategies across ICICI mutual fund products. And I think over the last decade, I have realized that if you don't take his words seriously, it is only at your own cost, because amongst all industry participants, I find that his calls have been very prescient. So with this short introduction, I request all of you to hear him very carefully. uh, and with these words, I would like to thank you, Shankar, for agreeing to host this call and share your views. And thank you once again. And I now request you to address everybody. Thank you, Shankar.
Welcome to all of you. Thank you for participating in this webinar. It's been a very, very interesting and fascinating 2020. When we exited 2009 July, I thought I would have a last 1 year like what I had in 2008-9. But in 2020, just the last 4 months has equaled what I went through in maybe 18 months of 2008-9. And it's been a absolutely fascinating and interesting experience. Why would I say it's a fascinating and interesting experience and not a scary experience? See, finally, what are we all engaged in? See, the goal of ICICI Mutual Fund, or the goal of everyone in Sapient, is very simple. The goal is to make money for our investors. That is a simple goal that we have for all our investors. And that goal for all our investors is to make money in the long run for our investors. And that is a simple goal. And everything else is unimportant. And to make that goal, what is it that you need to do? You need to buy asset classes cheap, and you need to sell asset classes costly. And if you looked at that entire simple goal and went about your business, it is very obvious that in 2012-13, the costly asset class was real estate. And it was very obvious that in 2012-13, you had to quit real estate in favor of equities. In 2012-13, almost in all over India, it was very obvious that you had to make money in, you had made a lot of money in real estate. So a logical wealth management framework would have involved you to take out money out of wealth, out of real estate, and put money in equities. Then that phase ended. So then you had a situation in 2017 where everybody at that point of time had made too much money in small and mid cap stocks. So it is very obvious that you had to take out money out of small and mid cap stocks and put it in debt mutual funds. It was a very, very obvious. What were people doing at the time? They were the opposite. They were actually investing in AIFs and PMSs of small and mid caps. That's a separate. So if you go back to a situation like where 4 months back, 5 months, it is a logical to do it at all-time high. Any classes take out money. So what would you have had to do at that point of time is take out money from large caps at that point of time, because large cap was at all-time high. Small and mid caps was not at relatively at all-time high. The real all-time high in small and mid caps, as you know, was in 2018 January. So that phase was done. So these were very simple decisions. So what had happened very clearly was that the US Fed actually decided that they are the lords of the stock market, and they decided that they will never allow the stock market to fall. And if you want to read about it, there is an article called Bubble or Nothing. And it has been written by an IIT Madras, IIM Ahmedabad guy who's sitting in US for an institute called Levy Forecasting, and you can read about it. It's a free piece, and I would recommend you to read it. It will take you 3-4 times to read it, and once you read it 3-4 times, you will get the central message that basically the US Fed is basically the biggest fund manager in market, and they do not want the stock market to fall. They never wanted the stock market to fall in 2018 December. So when the stock market fell in 2018 December, immediately they stopped hiking rates and did everything supportive. Again, the stock market started to go up. So the article is called Bubble or Nothing, BUBBLE or Nothing. And you Google it, you will be able to download it. It is from LEVY Forecasting Institute. And you have a situation whereby then what happened was, I don't think the US Fed ever realized that there could be other causes for the stock market to fall. So when coronavirus hit them, it really hit them very, very hard. On one hand, they were people who did not want the stock market to ever fall. And here it is that the stock market falls 25%. So I again reread the Bubble or Nothing article, and I realized that US Fed will not allow the stock market to fall. So what we did was we organized all kinds of events which basically said you have to put big money in equity immediately. Because the reality is that US Fed does not want the stock market to fall. So if you look at it, they guaranteed all debt virtually in US, and they actually brought down interest rates to zero, and they organized a stock market revival, which was unbelievable. If I had told you on March 23rd that the lockdown was going to exist till May 17th, and there is no lockdown being removed, and the stock market will be 25% higher, I don't think anyone would have believed us on March 24th, but that's what happened. Primarily, it happened because of US Fed actually cutting interest rates to zero and guaranteeing all the debt. So that they have managed to organize very successfully at this point of time. So what did we do in March? Very simple. Equity markets crashed 25%. Obviously, in any asset allocation model that you are looking at, what is the automatic decision to do? In panic buy. When asset classes fall, buy that asset class. So recommend a buy call on equity. Very, very simple at this point of time. So what happened on this Thursday about 10 days back? You got another opportunity. I thought you will get only one opportunity at a time. But here we have a very interesting year. You first get a superb opportunity. That opportunity plays out. Then you get another opportunity. And I can't believe that suddenly you get another opportunity where suddenly 6 schemes of an AMC are closed and gated, and then people start panicking. There is no logic for the panic, because end of the day, here we are dealing with debt funds. Every debt fund is not equal to another fund. So if you look at ICICI Prudential Credit Risk Fund or Medium Term Bond Fund, we have a clear situation where we have in fact disclosed our 30th April portfolio already on our website. And that portfolio has got 20% cash, and we raised this 20% cash in honor of all the people who may redeem from us. Not because we want to redeem them to redeem from us, but because, after this entire episode that happened, we thought there may be people who will take out money from us. And despite that, we did one calculation that, if I take the portfolio yield of all the money that has been invested, it comes to some 10.7%. Then you got 20% in cash yielding 3.5%. So the net portfolio yield is 9.38% or so because of the 20% in cash. Otherwise, the portfolio yield will be 10.8% or 10.7%. I could be wrong here, 10 pips here and there. And the portfolio is released on the website, so I'm not giving you any classified information whatsoever. So similarly, in our even lower risk fund, there also we have created huge cash. There also we have created huge cash. The cash does reduce the return, but again, in honor of the people who may redeem money. Why would you take out money at this point of time? You have an asset class which actually works very well at this point of time. You are in a deflationary period. In the last 7 years, real estate prices have come down. At a time when real estate prices come down, you have to bring down interest rates. In the last 5 years, equities have delivered no returns. In the last 6 years or 7 years, the oil has gone nowhere. So we are in deflation. So in deflation, there is only one asset class which delivers good returns. That is debt mutual fund. In Japan, which is the asset class which has delivered best returns in the last 30 years, it is Japanese bonds. In Germany, which is the best asset class which has delivered huge returns in the last 20 years in deflation, it has been German bonds. So what happens is, why does this happen? It's very simple. You go and put money in a SB account of a great private sector bank at 6.5%. Suddenly the interest rate drops to 4.5%. Do you get any repricing benefit? Nothing. Your interest rate falls from 6.5 to 4.5. 2 years back, you put money in a FD in a bank. After 2 years, your FD gets over. Interest rate comes down automatically by 2%. Do you get any repricing benefit? The answer is no. Whereas in a debt mutual fund, what happens? The repricing benefit accrues to you. Why is it that the returns of every ICICI Prudential debt fund is so good? Is because of the repricing benefit. And that repricing benefit accrues to you as an investor. And you are removing money. If you remove money, you're actually taking out money from a portfolio which has a 9.4% YTM or 9.3% yield to maturity with 20% cash. Otherwise, the yield to maturity is even higher. And moving to a SB account at 2.75 or 3%, as the case may be. So that is the benefit of debt mutual fund. The second, which I find very, very interesting is, till this crisis belonged, the credit fund was called an accrual category. Why was it called accrual category? At all points of time, you get the money accrued. Suddenly now people started worrying about accrual, and when I asked them, why is equity a great asset class? They say equity will recover. But equity is actually a residual asset class. Suppose the investors are paid, or the equity investors cannot get returns before the debt perpetual bonds are paid. So everyone takes the Yes Bank investor. But the Yes Bank perpetual, first the share fell from 200 to 20. Do you assume that all the top class banks of India, we have got perpetuals in, like HDFC, ICICI, Axis and SBI? Do you think all those shares are going to fall from 1,000 to 200? ICICI will fall from 400 to 100. Axis will fall from 400 to 100. SBI will fall from 200 to 20. I don't think so. Then where is the risk? The risk is in all the funds which have very high banking weightages. But I'm very amazed. What I was told was, in your empaneled funds, you have chosen two funds in our basket, focused and value discovery, and they have the least banks. So that at least is brilliance on your part, because those are the only two funds I know in the entire market which has less than 25% in banks. At least, you know, the logic is that if there is going to be the risk is going to be in financial services equity and not in credit funds. And the lowest equity weightage in financial services that I know in the market are there in these two funds of ours, focused equity and value discovery. So that is the real beauty at this point of time. So I do not know what investors are doing. I do not know what kind of scaremongering is going on at this point of time, because in every equity company or in every debt company, the reality is that the first asset class at risk is equity, then it is debt. So today people have started some WhatsApp on Vedanta. Vedanta has a debt of 40,000 crores. What is a marketable investment which is there in Vedanta? 45,000 crores. Vedanta owns 68% of Hindustan Zinc. Hindustan Zinc's market cap is 73,000 crores. So 68% of 73,000 crores is 45,000 crores. So what is the market cap of investments of Vedanta? It is 43,000 crores. What is the debt of Vedanta? 40,000 crores. And now people have started a WhatsApp on Vedanta, ignoring the fact that in the last 3 years, they paid a dividend of 8,000 crores per month, per year, each year. So the problem is, it's easy to spread panic. It's a WhatsApp panic is a very, very easy way to spread. But the realities are sometimes very, very different. Today, the reality is, what is credit? Credit is what I call a survival asset class. If you believe that a company is going to survive, you're not going to lose money in credit. Divan did not survive. ILFS did not survive. Many of the ADAC companies did not survive. Many of the, some of the other companies do not survive. Do you think Tata Group is going to survive? I think they are going to survive. Do you think Birla Group is going to survive? I think they are going to survive. Mahindra, Bajaj, Murugappa, Vedanta, TVS, all these groups are going to survive. So if they're going to survive, credit is going to survive in them. Most of the PSUs are going, all the PSUs are going to survive. All the banks, at least the top banks of the country are going to survive. So I believe that it is completely illogical that people think that credit is a more unsafe asset class than equity. On Monday, people are going to lose money, more money in equity than they are going to lose money in what they would have lost in debt. Last 1 week, people have taken on money from debt funds. But on Monday, I think the way SGX Nifty has fared on Friday, 6%, it was down in US. If that continues on Monday, let's assume it's down 4%. The kind of losses that they would have lost in equity. And one of the jokes that I've heard is that if you lose money in equity, you'll always make it up. I don't think Divan debt equity is going to come back. I don't think Jet Airways is going to come back. I don't think ILFS equity is ever going to have value. I don't think so. I think even in equity, unless you bought the right stock, the equity valuation is not going to come back. It does require buying the right stock. Otherwise, it is not that. And I don't know whether many of you, and it's very interesting because I was having a chat with many people. Most of the people, I have the benefit of working in equity markets from 1989. So most of the people have not seen the 95 to 2003 cycle. So in the 95 to 2003 cycle, when shares fell after 95, the next time they all touched that share price was 2005. So when people come and tell me that equity market will bounce back overnight, people have not seen 95 to 2005. And most of the equity participants in the market are all people who have not seen 95 to 2005. I'm not being anti-equity here. I'm being actually pro-debt here. Debt is an accrual asset class. It's a classy asset class at this point of time in a deflationary environment. Credit is a great asset class because survival guarantees you return. Equity requires growth. For growth to happen, we have to come out of Corona. Does Naren have any insight over what will happen in Corona? The answer is no. I talk to all kinds of people on Corona and I get suitably confused because I don't have any knowledge of Corona. I don't know whether when the Bombay train system opens, Corona is going to come in a big way in Bombay or not. When the railways open, will it come back? When the airlines open in India, whether Corona is going to come back? I don't have any of these answers. And when I don't have all these answers, I believe equity may be a great asset class, but it is an asset class with volatility. And that is why always we have recommended asset allocator, fund of fund and balanced advantage fund. And that is how we look at it at this point of time. To actually, the way I look at it, it's just too much that debt is a sitter at this point of time. It was a setter 1 week back also. It's a sitter today also. It is just unbelievable sitter at this point of time in a deflationary environment. It would be an extreme overweight at this point of time for me at this point of time. If you are just not bothered about risk, equity would also be an overweight. But then you should be a person who has nerves of steel that in case there is a problem, you will not panic because the equity is a much riskier asset class than debt. people have a mistaken notion that debt is a riskier asset class. Debt is not a riskier asset class. And in my opinion, people have got it completely mixed up. Debt is not fixed income. That part of it is true. But show me if you take our all seasons bond fund, our credit risk fund, or any of our schemes, I don't think the returns that we have given in the last 1 year, 3 or 5 year, any fixed deposit could have given. That extra return could not have come at zero risk. So there is nothing called zero risk in a debt mutual fund, but that risk is giving you that extra return. That's all I want to say. And at this point of time, the way I look at it, I mean, debt is an extraordinary asset class. The only few things in debt are extraordinarily costly at this point of time is overnight fund. Why would I invest for 2% there? It's completely illogical at this point of time. Today, liquid fund gives you some 4% or something. Why would I invest for 4% at this point of time when I can get Tata Group and Birla Group and all these groups almost at double digit for a 3-year paper? So clearly liquid and overnight look extremely overvalued at this point of time. With the simple model that I'm saying, invest in an undervalued asset class, take out money from an overvalued asset class. What are the most overvalued asset class at this point of time is overnight fund. Second most overvalued asset class at this point of time is liquid fund. I don't have a view on gold simply because in India, you get such beautiful debt at this point of time. In other countries, you don't get any returns on debt. So I don't have an answer what to do with gold. So that's a kind of situation we are in at this point of time. Sectorally, what are the sectors I have bet on at this point of time? We have bet on pharma. It has played out for us. We have bet on telecom. It has bet out for us. Frankly, we are able to do this event only because of telecom. It is in fact our number one holding in our published portfolios. And it was a call that we took 1 year back and published it all over the place because we felt that it is a sector without which we are not able to live. We can even we cannot live without our mobile phones, I realized. So that's why I made telecom my top holding across my portfolios. And the third sector, I again cannot live without is power. So these are our top holdings. The fourth, which again I thought is attractive from a industry point of view, was consumer staples, but it is just too overvalued. There is a leading company whose results came on Friday. That company is trading at 70p. How can I buy a company which has 70 years of earnings implied right now? Just cannot believe it. I would not buy it. I would happily buy debt at this point of time instead of paying a company for 70 years earnings. And that's what has happened at this point of time. So this is broadly what I want to convey. These are the sectors I'm really bullish on at this point of time. Happy to take up questions that you may have. Anything else that I missed, which you want me to also talk about, I'm happy to talk about. There's one thing I want you to know. 7,50,000 crores is the amount of surplus money which banks are parking with RBI. So if someone tells you that there's a liquidity shortage, it's a complete misnomer. 7,50,000 crores is the surplus liquidity available in the banking system, which is being parked with RBI at 3.75%. So there's an unbelievable extra liquidity available at this point of time. So thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for the talk. As you started off by saying that 4 months has given you enough excitement as the entire year of 2008 and 9 had given. I'm already making a list of the people actually who wished me Happy New Year on the 1st of January 2020. I'm looking for those people. My first question, sir, on a serious note is, there are a lot of rumors about the fiscal package that the government might come out with. So what if the government comes and says and prints money? There are two parts of the questions. Will growth come back, A? And B, how do you look at it in terms of downgrade of the country's rating if at all it might go that way?
Yeah, there was one person, again, I'll give you a person's name. He taught me something. There's a person called Richard Koo, RICHARD KOO. He taught me a lot of things. Many of you are CS in this group. So, you have all heard of double entry bookkeeping. he taught me what is called as triple entry thinking. He said that if all of you are saving, that is, all of us in this gathering are saving, all the corporates are saving, then he said government has to spend. He called it triple entry. He said that the simple rule you have to remember is that if all of us here are saving, all the companies are saving, government has to spend. So he said that if you just stop worrying about fiscal deficit as long as people are saving and companies are saving. All of us here, we are not even able to go to the mall. We are not able to go to a multiplex. In the month of May, many of the people used to go on a holiday. No one is able to spend any money. Even Flipkart is not open. So what happens is our savings are at record high. Because it's at record high, what happens is that our savings are at record high. Company savings are at record. Sorry, I went out, I think.
No, sir, you can continue.
I'm audible?
Yeah, very much.
So till when was I audible? Did I talk about Richard Koo? Till that time I was audible?
You just went out about 5 seconds before, sir. So we could hear most of it.
So what happens is that all of us can't go to a mall, all of us can't go to a multiplex, all of us can't go on holiday in May. So our savings are at record. All that corporates are doing is organizing Zoom webinars. We can't even offer food to our customers today for Zoom webinars. All we can offer is this. So what happens is we are both doing record savings. With this record savings, what happens? Someone has to spend. Otherwise, you'll have depression. So the level of fiscal deficit this year should be a record high. Otherwise, you'll have depression because this is called triple entry savings. People's savings plus corporate savings plus government savings has to be zero. So when people are saving and government is saving, then if corporates are spending, it's okay. But corporates can't spend, people can't spend, so government has to spend. So don't worry about fiscal deficit now. Unfortunately, government is too conservative. I have a colleague of mine who every day morning sends me a mail. Government is not doing enough on fiscal. They should announce a big fiscal package. And I believe that the biggest problem at this point of time is the lack of a big fiscal package. I would not worry about rating. I must also tell you one more thing. RBI is sitting on $480 billion. If rupee goes from 75 to 76, RBI makes 48,000 crores. So if rupee goes from 76 to 77, another RBI makes another 48,000 crores. So please don't worry about all these things at this point of time. Just stop worrying because RBI's notional profit just keeps zooming. If rupee goes to 85, RBI will make 480,000 crores. That is the reality of the extra profit they'll make. So I think you should just not worry about these things.
Rupa ma'am, all yours.
Hi, Naveen.
Hi.
So there's a question from the audience saying that what's your view on your GSEC yields?
I believe GSEC is a great near-term buy. But you should know when to take it out. So if you are a trader, it's a fantastic call. And in our asset allocator fund, when we have taken a gilt call, and we believe that it's a great trade. But whether you would be in a position to trade or not, I don't know. I think it's a fantastic call at this point of time. We are very, very, very positive with a trading bent of mind on gilt. And if you are not a trader, I don't think, because globally also I think you should only be a trader in gilt. You should not be an investor now. And if you don't have these stop loss mechanisms and things like that, I think you should not enter gilts also. Because end of the day, you have to remember, I'm a believer that it may go to 5.5 also. But whether it can go to 5.5 and retrace fast also. So I believe that it's a fantastic trade at this point.
So are you trying to say that the asset allocator has an, you have allocations into gilt, gold and equities where you keep on moving as per?
Yeah, we can. No, like if you see, we can take that call on an overnight basis in asset allocator fund of fund. So it is not that we need to go back to it is not an investor. We can take out the money from gilt when we want. We can invest in gilt when we want. So it becomes a trade which can be done. So that is a possibility. But for you, we'll have to come to you. So that is very, and investor will say, no, it will go to 5. When it goes to 550, I will go to 5. Suppose he or she says, I'll go to 5, only then I'll take out. Then now here it is in our control.
Sure. Got it. So there's one more question which basically talks about equity price as a function of PE earnings and liquidity. Keeping these factors, how would one take judgment to enter equities in the current situation?
It's too complicated actually. See, that is why, luckily, if you know, we had identified price to book as the model quite some time back. And book, is not as complicated as earnings. So with book, we have had a much more pleasant experience. The day we had used price to earnings, there are some balanced advantage funds which are making use of price to earnings. I think you should ask them. Because, we use price to book and actually we are very relaxed because with price to book, this problem doesn't exist. Book doesn't fluctuate so much. Can anyone predict the earnings of this current year? I don't think I can predict the earnings. In fact, I told all my research colleagues, don't work on predicting earnings. Predict the first company which will go down, second company which will go down, which will the company which will stand last. That is all I've told them to predict because it helps me everywhere, debt, credit, equity, everywhere. So the last company standing will be the company which will do well in the next 3 to 5 years. Simple job. So I told them, what is the point in forecasting earnings? Did anyone know do you know that May 18th whether lockdown will go away in Bombay or not? Do you know? None of us know. What kind of a lockdown removal will happen? Do we know? Can you predict whether railways will start on May 18th? We don't know. Nothing we know. So that is why book is better.
Okay. So I've got one more question which I'll ask and then I'll move to Amit. Why is it that NASDAQ is not falling in line with the other markets around the globe?
I don't have an answer there. There was a time when I used to be very positive on NASDAQ. And now I find that it is the most, this bubble or nothing kind of thing. That is the bubble if you ask me. But how long this bubble will last, I don't know. Maybe till the time inflation comes in a big way, it will come. But when it will come, I don't know. But the aggregate market cap. I have a theory based on market cap. Based on market cap, I'm not capable. See, we have one fund called Global Advantage Fund of Fund. It is a very interesting fund which I can invest in NASDAQ. But I am not invested in NASDAQ. Technically, I'm capable. I can invest in NASDAQ in that fund, but I'm not been able to get myself to invest in NASDAQ. And if that fund, if NASDAQ crashes, I'll definitely invest in that fund in NASDAQ.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much. Amit?
Naren sir, hi. Naren sir, you have been, if I remember correctly, Michael Mauboussin has been your gurus, and you have said that he had taught you that what will make you to think that you have to change your view on the markets. And I remember you had spoken about current account deficit way back in 12-13, and because of that you had changed your view that time. So what is that you see that what will make you change your view on equities right now, or probably on other asset classes? What is the parameter or what are the conditions? Like if MSCI weightage is going up, then maybe we can see some flows in June. Is that going to change your view, or what is it that you are going to have a change of view in such conditions today, sir?
See, let me tell you, no, as far as equity is concerned, no, my valuation indicator is telling me buy. My ignorance indicator in Corona is telling me, although valuation indicator is saying buy, says that boss, recognize that you don't know anything about Corona. That is what it is telling me. So my valuation indicator is giving me a complete buy. Actually, if you ask me, so the way MSCI by FTSE minus Hindustan Lever Block of GSK, that, and now there are some rights issues which have been announced, that number is equal to 0, if you ask me. So, you know, I started off being very positive based on, I wrote a letter to my colleague saying FTSE plus MSCI. Then I saw GSK block. Then I saw one rights issue. Then I did that comparison, I reached 0. So after that, I did not know what to do. So I reached 0, so I left it. But I'm not negative on equity. I am saying that if you have a customer who says Corona is not a problem, you are sitting in the place where the maximum chance of creating a good vaccine exists. Pune could be the source of all the vaccine. So Mr. Poonawalla knows 1,000 times more about what can happen in coronavirus than Mr. Naren. So if Poonawalla tells you something and based on that you can turn positive, you should just throw Naren's view out on equity and take his view. Because what do I know? There is no problem about valuation in equity market at this point of time. That is what I would say, and I would request you to find out what is happening in Serum, assess what is the chance of a good vaccine getting created, what is the chance of a vaccine working. I think that is more important. I think Serum has more answers than Mr. Naren. And I'm not bearish on market based on valuation. I'm very bullish on market based on valuation. As far as debt market is concerned, today current account is in surplus. When current account is in surplus, I have been trained to think of equity. For a long, what has been very, very upsetting to me at this point of time is that I always thought Yes Bank was a risk. I had shared that risk with many of you. But why did I not think of Franklin as a risk? That is something which I should have thought of. I should have thought of pre-mortem. I never thought there can be a rating of a mutual fund. It was not something which was part of it. But frankly, NAVs didn't get affected. Our NAVs did not get affected. Actually, it has given a buying opportunity to all the sensible IFAs of India. So NAVs haven't got affected. So frankly, it's not so material because at the end of the day, if you had wanted to invest, this week was an opportunity. How much did people lose in our credit risk fund? Our credit risk fund has still delivered good returns. All our debt funds have still delivered good returns. So I don't have any regret. Actually, it's only a buying opportunity and people haven't lost money. It's not like Corona where people lost 20% in equity. So that's how I look at it. But still, I didn't do any pre-mortem that this could have happened. What will happen? Because see, look at Warren Buffett's famous statements. How others conduct their business is very important to you. Why did I not think of that? Second question, if the market, if it's only when the tide turns, you know who's swimming naked. That is the second question. If markets are irrational, they can last longer than you can be solvent. These three statements are there in my mind and I have to keep thinking about them.
Sir, also one follow-up on this, on the rupee dollar equation. Rupee has seen a depreciation against why? Because the dollar is actually strengthening. So any view on the rupee, sir? You have oil imports at all-time low. Any view on rupee? Because many of our clients do have their children studying in the US and they have to send money across. So most of the guys have to ask this question on rupee as well.
I'm not bearish on rupee. I am not bearish on rupee. I am bearish on dollar actually. In my opinion, the package that Fed guaranteeing everything is bearish dollar in the medium run. I'm very bullish on yen. I am very bullish on euro. And in my opinion, I have invested in Global Advantage in Japanese fund simply because I believe that there is a scope. I think yen I'm very positive on.
Okay, sir. Pallav?
So I have a very simple question. So generally, I keep on asking about your own asset allocation. So how have you been investing? So suppose a client comes and asks me to invest his 100 rupees today. I would ask you, where would you want to put this 100 rupees today?
आज तो सब पैसा डेट में जाएगा, सब पैसा डेट में जाएगा. एक महीने पहले इक्विटी में जाएगा. मैं वेयर एम आई ओवरवेट, डेट में ओवरवेट हूँ, एसेट एलोकेशन में ओवरवेट हूँ. बोरिंग क्या है, चेंज ही नहीं होता है. एक्सेप्ट 10 days in March when I could be overweight equity. बाकी टाइम में यही बोलते रहता हूँ, बोर हो गया. Overweight debt, overweight asset allocation.
So there is another question from a lot of people. As you can see, the gold has been in the news of late. Is gold going the silver way of 2019, 2013, as silver went up in 2012-13? You think gold is going similar ways? Because there have been a lot of theory around this Bank of America report which says that gold will go to $3,000. What is your view on gold, sir?
I don't have a clear view. I actually have not given any clear view on gold actually. 2017-18, I bought sovereign gold bond personally. But after buying in sovereign gold bond in 17-18, I have not bought in 19 and 20. And I've left it. Whatever I have in 17-18 sovereign gold bond, that's all. And that is, I thought, the best way to invest. Now, mutual fund has cost structure. Sovereign gold bond has a return structure. So that is what I've done at this point of time. Of course, I'm very happy with my multi-asset decision to convert a large fund and buy 1,000 crores of gold in June 2018. But nevertheless, after 17-18, I've lost interest in gold. But I'm not negative. It is just saying maybe 17-18 I was bullish. The problem with some kind of an investor like me is that at the bottom I'm bullish, in the middle I'm not clear. That is the problem. But 17-18, anyone asked me, I've told people invest in gold. Now I've kept quiet.
Janak bhai.
Good evening, sir. Sir,
Good evening.
with the current lockdown situation and with all the new rules which will continue after the lockdown on social distancing, what is your view on the real estate sector, sir? Do you see a lot of pain over there? So more from a point of view of multiplexes, restaurants, what kind of view do you have?
I'm very worried there. I believe that barring normal people will start applying normal valuation model. Normal valuation model will mean that you have to look at it, compare your rental yield and compare your borrowing costs, which they have never done in their life. So if you start doing that, the investment decision in real estate will start becoming very absurd, particularly in places like Bombay and New Delhi. So I think Bombay and New Delhi, though, there is going to be serious problem. And in Bombay and all the people who have financial services, stock options, all those have gone below water also. So that is the other problem. So I think Bombay and Delhi is a bigger problem. Pune, I don't know. Pune, I don't know. But I think Bombay and Delhi are at big risk, if you ask me. And this entire thing, see the other thing, frankly, I'm not a good perspective thinker on what is going to be the long-term implications of COVID on how work from home. Like, TCS is saying so many people are going to switch to home. What are the other ways in which how people are going to change their thinking? How people are going to start living differently? Will lot of organizations say, boss, work from home is perfectly fine from now on. We don't need offices. Let's cut down our offices. That's a cost saving tool. BKC, kyon office chahiye? These kind of things, like, this year we have managed to do all the meetings on in video conference. I mean, the kind of cost saving that has happened. So does it mean people travel less? I think I don't have clarity because I'm not good at this kind of perspective thinking. But these are things that I've told some of my colleagues to also think whether there are going to be a lot of behavioral changes that people are going to do or not.
So you have a view on the real estate of South also. So Bangalore, we spoke about this a year back. You want to share it, sir?
Bangalore is one of the best cities of India. At least it's a city which has become focused on doing a lot of innovative things. So if you look at e-commerce, if you look at anything, I think finally at the end of the day, everything which is innovative happens out of Bangalore. So I would not bet against Bangalore as much as I would bet against costly real estate in Bombay and Delhi.
Right.
So the most beaten down sector in equity is PSUs, and you have been having a strong conviction in PSUs. So you think, is there a case for re-rating PSUs?
See, I have a principle. I'm willing to buy PSUs when they don't have private sector competition. And so my thesis has always been that you don't go and bet on PSUs where there is too much private sector competition. If you see my portfolios, currently they have PSUs, but these are all in sectors where there is very little private sector competition. Because my thesis is if you have private sector competition in many of those sectors, private sector has managed to do much better than public sector. But large areas of the economy, private sector is out. And in those areas, I'm comfortable with PSUs. And today, those PSUs, see, I believe in, I think one thing that got missed out in my sectoral view is in a very low interest rate regime, I believe in a dividend yield fund and in a dividend yield equity fund. Because I believe that, if interest rates are going to be so low, you invest in a dividend yield equity fund, and if that equity fund invests in dividend yield, and if you do directly, of course, there are tax challenges. But through a dividend yield equity fund, I clearly see that as a possibility. So sustainable dividend yield. And it can't be in banking and financial services because, banking, even they may not give approval also. So it should be a non-banking financial services dividend yield fund. That is how I look at it.
Thank you, sir.
Naren sir, Dhruv, I'll just ask a question and then maybe you can come in. NBFCs post this lockdown, NBFCs who are cash rich and who are doing well, we can agree. But most of the NBFCs who had taken para-banking kind of step in their own right. So how do you see NBFCs going forward, which are not the healthy ones? But NBFC as general, a category was being lured by the market.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
See, the real estate NBFCs, they have NPLs. See, if you look at all the ones which are into real estate, I don't think their balance sheets are true. I think there is quite a lot of losses embedded in them. Leave aside the top two. I think all the others have a fair amount of losses in them. And I don't think their balance sheets can be fully trusted. So obviously your city wallas are all fine, maybe. But I'm saying that in general, I'll say that unless you have created a good niche, good financials, good capital base, good promoters, good promoter backing, there are challenges in that sector. That is the reality.
Dhruv sir?
I can't hear you. Dhruv, you are mute.
Yeah, sorry. Clearly, you're more positive on debt right now. On equities, as you said, little more confusing in terms of the corona. So for clients who had sort of redeemed during the meltdown that we saw in February, March, they might have reduced their allocations to equity, and you would have typically moved to liquid, a large portion. So would that liquid money, should we recommend to move into debt away from liquid? And the second follow-up on that is, would you feel that the compression in spreads is likely to precede the rally in equities, a sustainable rally in equities?
That is my view. I'm saying that
Okay.
the valuation comfort in credit is much higher than valuation comfort in equity. That is the way I'm looking at it. And the way money flow has happened at this point of time, I think the valuation comfort is just too high. Positioning is also very much more comfortable. And that is how I look at it. If valuations were to change, then it's a different situation. And of course, like Amit said, there is MSCI and FTSE rebalancing. That is clearly a positive. That is very clearly a positive at this point.
Okay.
So I have two questions. You have spoken about various sectors, and I have known you for some time, and your greed and fear theory. You haven't spoken anything about the energy sector and the auto sector, because auto sector perhaps is at the worst. You can't go below zero in terms of production, and energy. By energy, I mean oil, which is at $20-$25. What's your view on both of these?
See, I'm positive on energy, but the problem is in I believe that at some point of time, the best energy stocks could be outside also. That is also a challenge. And that is a problem at this point of time, clearly. That's what I mentioned even when I met you in February. And if you look at it, interestingly, those stocks first bottomed out before oil bottomed out. And that was very interesting if you look at it at that point of time.
And what about auto sector?
As far as auto, it's a debate in my mind. I'm very clear that real estate will work as a discretionary. I'm very clear there. How discretionary is auto going to be? I feel that incomes are under severe pressure. When incomes are under severe pressure, discretionary is a very, very dangerous sector to be in. Now, real estate is totally clear in my mind. Auto, how discretionary is it? Is it discretionary? Is it not discretionary? That's a question I'm grappling with at this point.
So, don't you think two-wheeler will not be discretionary and four-wheeler will be?
It may not be. It may not be. It may not be. That is true, actually. And that is where I am. This thing, and that is the thing. Maybe two-wheeler is an interesting thing. And there was always supposed to be one Euro 6 Euro change thing, BS6 change. That BS6 change we were supposed to see in April, May, how things pan out. Now, today, along with that, you have had this, it has completely distorted. We had decided we look at how each of the BS6 products work and then decide on the best company to buy. Today, we have got completely confused because we don't know what to look at this point of time. No, we have not had any time to test the new BS6 products.
There is a question from a participant, sir, which says, what is your recommendation to the government to revive the economy?
See, Mike, our recommendation is, sooner or later take interest rates down to such a level that no bank keeps extra money with RBI. You cannot keep 750,000 crores of wasted money at 3.75% is a big cost to the system. So what happens is you take down interest rates to such a level that no one keeps surplus money with RBI. That is one of the first and simple steps that should be done, because at very low interest rates, many of the projects which were unviable will become viable. And it is possible that at very low interest rates, some of the people may buy houses, may buy cars, may do a lot of things and serve as a trigger to the stimulus. And it costs nothing, if you ask me. And second is clearly for SMEs, they have to do something very, very substantial. If you ask me, they cannot kill the SME community in the entire country. They have to decide what all they have to do for SME community they have to do. They should preserve the SME community at any cost in the country. they can take losses into their books if required, but they have to ensure that every SME survives. Every SME which is sensible survives across the country. They have to do it. That is the second thing I would say that they have to do. If these two things they do, I think then after that Indians are very, very good. So I don't think there is going to be a problem.
I just saw one question here, which is very interesting. Naren, I would definitely like to ask you, because there's a gentleman or someone who wrote saying that, would you sell your house and move into a rented apartment?
But you know my situation, no?
I know, that's why I asked you. That's why I asked you
I
this.
sold in 2011 my house, a flat in Bombay, and 2015 my flat in Chennai, and I'm very comfortably sitting in rent.
Yeah. So I wanted everyone to hear that. So
you know that.
Yeah.
So suppose, but suppose you were owning a house today, what would have been your call?
Tough
Without
call
a loan,
today.
if you're, yeah.
It's a tough call today. But Bombay, Delhi is Pune. I won't sell. Pune, I won't sell. Pune,
Okay.
I won't sell. I won't sell Coimbatore. I won't sell Bangalore. Pune, Bangalore, Coimbatore, I won't sell. This Bombay, New Delhi, Lutyens, all these I don't have a view.
So Naren, I have already followed your suit. So I'm following you. I'm in a rented apartment. So I'm following you.
Good.
Do you think that the government has the capability to come and give a credit guarantee or something of that sort?
They're going to do it. I think they're going to do it. They're going to do it. They know that they have to do it. They are ideologically comfortable, so they'll give a guarantee to SME. I feel so.
But how do you think the market, and you at the same time are talking about markets being negative despite this being the case?
Oh, I didn't say that. I repeat, Amit has the key. Serum say, why do you have to ask me? I told you on valuation, market is buy. Amit se पूछो, tell Amit to go to Serum and find out what will happen. मुझसे पूछ रहे, Amit से पूछना है ना. All the other places are useless. Only Amit has the answer.
I will get it tomorrow, sir. I'll tell you.
So there is also a question. There are two questions. One is basically saying that what's your view on crude? And second is, should people continue their SIPs in the next few months?
No. They should continue their SIPs not for 2 months. They should continue their SIPs for the next 3 years. If they're going to continue their SIPs for 2 months, I don't know what to do. But I'm saying for the next 3 years, they have to continue their SIPs. And I believe I'm very positive on crude over the next 3 years. That is why to Pallav's question, I did mention positive on energy. I believe that crude goes from $27 to $60 in the next 3 years minimum.
I thought you were going to say $100, sir, because the way rigs have come down.
By $60 बोलेंगे ना, double always good enough there.
So,
but one thing I know on 2nd May 2023, debt would have done very well outside liquid and overnight. That I'm very sure of. Yeah, if Amit Biwalkar gives me a green signal, I can put money in equity also.
Equity, I will tell you, sir.
Equity has no problems whatsoever except Corona.
You did not talk about commodities as cycle, because you always had this theory wherein you say that whenever there is disturbances in equity markets because of global events and
commodities, no, we have got enough. All the commodities are there, and commodity stocks have become like highly leveraged stocks. So what I'm saying is, you people worry about debt in them itself. So equity is much more riskier. So that is why when morning say WhatsApp hota hai on debt, equity is much riskier, no? So to sum up, what I would like to say is that there is, I think you people all handle money very well, but I'm saying that the way Lawrence has been, it's a superb time for all of you, because first you got a superb time to put money in equity. Now you got a superb time to put money in debt. So enjoy. I think you can make very good money for your customers. Lot of unnecessary wrong messages go from different people. So you can counter that wrong messages and make money for your customers. That is how I look at it at this point of time. We are also doing all that we can do to remove the misinformation which goes on a daily basis from different channels. Having said that, it's not going to be an easy period, but I'm sure Sapient will emerge winner. That I've always believed, you know that. Because you're on the feet and you're on the street and you're doing everything possible to engage with customers. So I believe all your customers should be very happy that they've got Sapient as their wealth manager. And I believe that you will do extremely well. But this is a superb time to invest in debt. Equity also, it's a good time, but there are corona risks, which Naren does not know enough about. There is no problem with equity, but the risks are outside the domain of Naren. That is the problem. That is how I look at it. And but in debt, I think all those corona risks are all not there. That is the but I would say that Sapient is a superb wealth manager. I think all of you have signed up with one of the best wealth management entities I have seen in India. So I think all of you do extremely well because you've signed up. And the last 6 months shows that, if you're not with a good wealth manager, you will end up doing all kinds of things in planning. That is my biggest problem, and I have seen it as a mutual fund. So that's why I feel very, very happy doing an event on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock with all. Thank you all.
Thank you, Naren. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, Naren sir, only one thing before we close. I think lessons in life will be repeated until they are learned. And we have been learning from you over the last 5, 10, 15 years. So taking time out on a Saturday evening, and we are hopeful that some things might open up in Pune, and I will go to Serum Institute and find that answer for you. That is going to be my task rather than calling customers tomorrow. So thank you very much for taking time out, sir. And once I get the news from Serum, I will put my money first in equity and then call you, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
ICICI, including Vipin, Anirudh and Amar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.